guys, I'm totally at the pub, or at least as close to being at the pub as I'm going to be for some time. I'm just sort of hanging out next to it, trying to, you know, breathe in the boozy fumes. I'm out in London by the river Thames. Not quite sure whether to give you eyes or sunglasses. I apologise, it's super sunny, so I think probably you're going to get sunglasses. And I'm on the one unit of exercise that the British Prime Minister has allowed us per day. I'm out on a quick walk to get some sunshine, get some fresh air. We're hoping that these videos are going to be, well, they will be very experimental. I think we're interested in anyone doing anything really, speaking as directly or indirectly as you like to our brief of a bit lit, something which is a bit literary. And here I am outside at a time when we're being asked to be mostly inside. And it's making me think about in what ways literature is a form of thinking about in and out. But before I get on to that, please do get in touch with us if you're interested in speaking to us, in speaking for us. So you can be in conversation with one of us, or you could film your own thing. It's entirely up to you. And you might like to pitch us questions or issues that we could explore on your behalf. If you don't want to show your face, we can get you to talk to us without any visuals from you, and I will do my best to give interesting listening expressions. Yeah, I've never particularly wanted to show my face on camera either, so I have sympathies for anyone who feels that way. Please do just come and talk to us. You don't need to be on camera. And any format that you're interested in as well, we would love to hear about. Do you want to speak to camera like I'm doing now? Do you want to be in dialogue with other people? Do you want to work through some text or some music, or a bit of film or a bit of theatre? Please just pitch your ideas at us and let us know things you think we should be doing. So yeah, in and out. I have, I guess like anyone, a patchy and a biased knowledge of literature, and much of that bias turns towards the Western European canon. But I think about some of the earliest forms of surviving Western theatre. In Roman theatre, the little, you know, we have a very little surviving amount of Roman theatrical scripts. But what we have shows us a world in which the stage represents quite clearly a street, a little bit like this street running past the Thames. And that street is full of male characters of various social statuses, from slave up to high status men, crucially men. And the offstage world represents homes and domestic spaces, which are defined by offstage women. Zooming forward a millennia and a half, Shakespeare in the 16th century is doing similar things, thinking about in and out. And the plays we now think of as his comedies are often structured around two different places, one which represents a kind of in, and one which represents a kind of out. So often you have a world of the court, of high status people who are included. And on the other hand, you have people who are in exile, in a forest, in a cave, or on an island, for example. Turning again on the idea of in and out. And just to give one final example, zooming forward again, this time to the 19th century, and this time to Russia. I think of some of those whopping novels that were being written in the 19th century in that large country, and which turn on questions of who is in St. Petersburg, who is in Moscow, who is in the place of government, who is in the place of aristocracy, and who is outside those metropolitan city structures. So yeah, in and out. Structuring the fictional worlds, but also the demographics, the kinds of people that we see and that we hear from of these texts. But I think too about how literature as a term, as a word, and as a concept, as an idea, is a form of inclusion and exclusion. We ask, is this great literature or is it not? Is it literary or is it not? And certainly as a term, it turns on the question of whether you can read. Are you literate? Do you have access to literature? And until quite recently, that was a deeply exclusionary question to ask. a massive minority, if that's a thing, a very small minority, let me put it, was able to read, had the training to be able to read. And you don't just need the training to be able to read literature, you need the money to be able to buy it, or the social status to be able to borrow it or have access to it through some other means. And if you're going to buy it and own it, you also need the kind of domestic space in your home in which to store it, somewhere for a kind of personal library. So there's quite a lot going on there, just at the level of the word, I think, in terms of who belongs and who doesn't. In the English and the British tradition, I think of the word literature as a distinctively 18th century term. Some of my colleagues might wish to argue with me on that one, and I invite them to do so. But it feels like a term which has been worked up in the 18th century to define a kind of writing which doesn't belong to certain kinds of people, or perhaps, to put it the other way around, it's kind of literature that other people do not belong to. And so, for example, the rise of the male conceptualized novel in the middle of the 18th century is working against the tradition of prose fiction, to which women were both contributing as writers and as readers. And likewise, it's the middle of the 18th century which sees the first idea, or certainly the loudest ideas about Shakespeare as a great writer and as a distinctively kind of masculine figure writing worlds of men for men. And so again, the history of the term, as well as the term itself, is kind of bound up with questions of who belongs and who doesn't. Literature is something which is important, is high status, is distinctively male in lots of ways, and perhaps is difficult. It needs to be difficult to read and difficult to write, in and out. There's also the question, thinking about our present moment and thinking about human identity, of who is in and who is out. That seems quite bound up with concepts of sexuality and also of gender status, whether you are out as a queer or a trans person, for example. In and out language is something which defines the way we talk about one another, and it's another kind of boundary which is organising the way we think, not just about literature but about life in general. So here I am out, thinking about the boundary within in probably very inept ways, but please do get back to us about any thoughts that this video or our previous videos has sparked, and do please start pitching to us topics you'd like us to cover and things you'd like to do with us. We have some fabulous people coming up on the feed over the next few days and weeks ahead, and we're really excited to see where we go next. This is a genuine collaboration and we have no idea what might come our way, so please do consider coming our way. Good luck in the weeks ahead, folks, and I look forward to talking to you another time.